We're already quite a way into the Game of Thrones prequel that is House of the Dragon, and even now there's a lot to predict for where the show is headed throughout the rest of Season 1. The major events that this show could lead to are half spoiled by the fact that the lives of Rhaenyra, Viserys, and other characters across the Seven Kingdoms are already documented in George R.R. Martin's book Fire and Blood. But in terms of where the season will end, what could be in store for fans to leave them waiting for the second run of episodes? Keep watching as we take a look at where we think House of the Dragon Season 1 will end up. Be aware, spoilers for House of the Dragon's future and the novel Fire and Blood will follow. Still with us? Okay then, let's dive in. Number 6, Daemon and Rhaenyra will have a child. Yes, for fans who haven't read the book and aren't savvy on Targaryen customs, Princess Rhaenyra ends up marrying her uncle Daemon and has children to him. Now, the books do cover a lot of ground, so it is expected that the show won't include absolutely everything. This possibly includes Rhaenyra's first marriage to Laenor Velaryon and her lovers, except maybe the rumored relationship with Sir Criston Cole.
Gods, he's Dornish.
Which is already being heavily rumored. It would be a good move to have the last episode centered on Rhaenyra's relationship with Daemon, before ending with the birth of their first child, Aegon, who shares the same name as Viserys and Alicent's first child. Awkward. It helps to solidify their bond heading into Season 2 and would also create a more interesting grab for the throne. It's also worth noting that just as Viserys' marriage to Alicent drove a wedge between her and Rhaenyra, Daemon and Rhaenyra's marriage did the same with them and Viserys.
It's not my daughter you lust for, is it? It's my throne.
The stakes would be higher than anticipated. This takes us into number 5, Viserys will perish. Since the first episode, we've had hints at the current king's health not being up to scratch.
It's a small cut from sitting the throne. It's nothing.
In these latest episodes, Viserys is even missing a finger or two as his body is pretty much crumbling.
Whatever it is, it needs to be kept quiet.
As readers of the books will know, King Viserys does perish at one point. Depending on how far into the future House of the Dragon will jump, it could line up exactly how it does in the books. But again, the series can't be expected to fit in absolutely everything. So could it be a bit earlier than expected? With Viserys and Alicent having children and Rhaenyra and Daemon having their own potentially before the season's ending, it would make for the perfect spot to bring Viserys' death forward in order to give us what is worthy of a season finale. Much in the same vein as Game of Thrones' first season finale, the death of one of the lead characters would be a massive blow. How could we forget Ned Stark's famous beheading? Losing Viserys at this point would be an emotional punch to the gut for various characters, but would also effectively set up the events of House of the Dragon that every major fan is looking forward to most. Number 4, the beginning of the Dance of the Dragons. The Targaryen Civil War is sure to take place if House of the Dragon airs for as long as we hope, so maybe it's time to really lay down the foundations for it. In Fire and Blood, the war starts when King Viserys passes away. Queen Alicent, aware that Rhaenyra is still appointed as her father's heir, quickly works to make her son Aegon king. In order to pull this off, she ensures that the news of Viserys' death does not reach Rhaenyra's residence of Dragonstone until a time where she cannot interfere with Aegon's coronation. Sure enough, Rhaenyra, heavily pregnant at the time, goes into labor early and the events unfold to have her going to war with Queen Alicent and her family. Again, the events would probably be slightly edited for the series, and we wouldn't expect this to unfold in the finale, but would this not be something to allude to? For the final shots to feature Aegon being placed on the Iron Throne, with a proud Alicent watching on, while simultaneously showing Rhaenyra discovering the news of her father's death so late. It would make for a lot of hype as fans wait on the second season for sure. Number 3, foreshadowing the battle at Storm's End. We definitely don't expect to see this until the second season, but there can still be some looking ahead, can't there? It is known that upon the beginning of the civil war between the Greens and the Blacks, Greens being Alicent and Aegon supporters, Blacks being Rhaenyra supporters, that the events at Storm's End crank up the hostility. In a nutshell, Alicent sends her second son Aemond on a diplomatic journey to House Baratheon, where he ends up having a showdown with Rhaenyra's second son, Lucerys. This culminates into a dragon battle amidst a thunderstorm above Storm's End. Premonitions are not completely out of the window in the Game of Thrones world, so who is to say that we can't get a little hint at a major battle from the time of Alicent and Rhaenyra's war? Even if there is just a mention of Storm's End, or somehow weaving in hostility between the two boys, it sets up the excitement for what is coming in the future. Number 2, Otto Hightower will die. Again, this wouldn't line up with the event of the books, but it would make for quite a big moment as wars begin to be fought. In the original book, Otto lives through the Dance of the Dragons as hand to his grandson Aegon. However, it is after the fall of King's Landing that Otto is the first to be beheaded as a traitor by Rhaenyra. Who is to say the series needs to follow everything by the book literally? If House of the Dragons is to carry on and be able to excite or surprise everyone watching, then there needs to be some twists and turns even for the fans of the novel. To have Otto, who is clearly orchestrating his bloodline into the Iron Throne,
My darling.
get his comeuppance earlier than anticipated, then it makes for a surprising turn of events and also makes Alicent quite dangerous moving forward. With the idea of her king and father both dead, it would leave Alicent backed into a corner and desperate to ensure she wins against her former friend Rhaenyra in the coming war. As to how he could die is for all to discuss. The most likely and surprising circumstances would be for another member of the current council to take him out in hopes of replacing him.
I agree.
There is even the possibility of an element of book's event playing out, but earlier than anticipated. Sir Criston Cole is named Hand to the King once Otto is out of the way. Maybe Criston's pretty boy act is a way of swaying our assumptions in terms of the storytelling of the show.
All that I have I owe to you. Now, I'd hardly call that toothless, Princess.
Number 1, Archmaester Gildane will arrive. This may not be a name that most fans are familiar with, but trust us, he plays a vital part in the story of the Targaryens. Gildane is credited as being the narrator and source for the stories featuring the characters of House of the Dragon, taking details from people's point of views as to the events that unfold. So, where is he exactly? In order to see how these events unfold and lead into the likes of the Dance of the Dragons, would it not be a nice inclusion for the character reciting the tales to be present in the show? It would definitely make for a fun wink to the audience to have the character enter in the last episode and begin to keep a journal of events that have taken place, then featuring him throughout the rest of the show, continuing to write things down as time goes on. This is more of just a fun additive for fans of the show, but it would make sense, right? There is a lot of routes that HBO could go down when it comes to rounding out the first season of this already hit show. With the books laying down quite a long road for the show to travel down, it is a wonder of what deaths and other events we use to bookmark the story before we enter the confirmed second season. What are your thoughts on how this season will end? Agree with any of our predictions? Have some of your own? We want to know. Put down your thoughts in the comment section below. One thing's for sure, don't bring back Ed Sheeran for another cameo. Yeesh.